Hello and welcome to Healthcare Unscripted podcast. I'm Dr. Chris Leslie, orthopedic surgeon, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Rob Nathan, who is the CEO, managing director of specialty finance, and the co-founder and chairman of Fairwinds Medical. And our guest today, Mr. Kerem Mavituncalilar.
Very
Am I
close.
close?
Yes,
Very
very
close.
close. Mavituncalilar. Yes, thank you.
Well, welcome. And he is the CEO of VBW Holdings. So, welcome to both of you today. I'm excited about having this podcast. There's a lot of ground to cover here from the standpoint that the two of you are essentially in the same space. And this is an area where you interact with surgeons, but we don't necessarily really understand what it is that you're bringing to us. So, the purpose of today's podcast is to kind of clarify that so that we all have a better understanding of what it is you do and how you do it. So if we could start, Kareem, with a little bit of your background and how you personally got into this space. I know that you are the man for the Viscogliosi brothers, who are famous in the orthopedic world. You can't be an orthopedic surgeon without knowing of them and what they do. But if you could share a little bit of your background and how you got into this.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. It's nice to meet you, and hi, Rob, again.
Hi.
My journey into the MedTech space starts with an early career starting in Dubai. Actually, I was on the fund of funds team with investing into multiple asset classes, and our job was essentially manager selection and allocating capital to that domain experts. And healthcare was an area of interest. At that time, we were involved in the biotech funds as well as in nursing homes, interestingly enough. So I have that exposure. But as my career progressed, I set up my eventually own family office, and we were investing in commercial real estate, and we were looking for a diversification. And healthcare made a lot of sense with its size and its promise. And that's how I initially got involved.
And how long have you been doing this? First of all, you're in Istanbul, so thank you for joining us. I wanted to say that. But how long have you been doing this?
So I started my career in '99, and more or less have been involved in the funds and healthcare, but directly into medtech. That has been in the last 5 years.
Okay, very good, very good. So to both of you, and since you're on the financial investment side of this, how do you focus on and find the investment opportunities that you bring to the table? Rob, let's start with you.
Well, for me, I've been in the investment banking world in healthcare forever, so predominantly referrals through prior clients, spheres of influence, accountants, attorneys, money managers, things along that line. So that's predominantly how I find opportunities and then bring them to Kerem and people like Kerem who invest in the opportunities that we see once we know their parameters of what their investment profile looks like and criteria. So, Kerem, maybe tell us a little bit about your investment profile and criteria.
Sure. So my interest in the healthcare was there from an asset management diversification need. But my focus in medtech became an eventual choice because I knew that I didn't want to be on the services side. And also pharma is frankly above my pay grade and I guess beyond my lifespan. That's a very institutional game. And it's also binary in nature. So medtech, following innovation with its relatively faster approval and commercialization nature, was more attractive on a risk-adjusted basis. So my primary interest started with an investment motive to have risk-adjusted returns.
Very good, very good. So, from the standpoint of the patient's journey through this, excuse me, along with their surgeon, how do you evaluate those healthcare investments? Because obviously the patient focus largely drives what happens from a surgeon investment standpoint as well.
Sure. So we do have, of course, some underlying themes that we would like to invest in. So our focus is in predominantly, as you know, from Viscogliosi Brothers, is the neuromusculoskeletal space. But we are, of course, interested in other areas such as neurology, vascular access, cardio, gastrointestinal, and urology. And the reason why we are interested in that is because that's where we see the most M&A activity. And the technologies within that space are typically class 2, class 3 devices where they're risky, but by design, because they're risky, they attract more capital. So we also invest and are interested in adjacent and enabling technologies such as robotics, imaging, wound care, infection prevention. Those kind of areas are which we mostly focus on. And you mentioned about a patient journey. We essentially invest in two axes, which we believe is an ecosystem. One is the patient journey itself, where the disease starts and then progresses over time, and the patient needs different surgical or other technological solutions to remedy their problem. So we don't just invest in a particular time of that patient's problem, but across the life cycle of the patient. The other side of the axis is the overall MedTech value chain, which starts down the bottom at preclinical level and prototyping, regulatory strategies, going up all the way to commercialization with manufacturing, with financing, with regulatory consulting, all those essentially parts of the business that is necessary for developing a full-fledged commercial company is again our areas of interest to develop and invest in.
I think that's really fascinating from the standpoint that you're invested and involved in the entire patient journey, whereas many companies in this world only focus on a small portion of it, and then when that is done, they're done. So I think the fact that you are in it from start to end is unique, and I compliment you for that. I also wanted you to flesh out a little bit about robotics is certainly taking over. I mean, you're not just orthopedics. You're obviously across the whole spectrum, but robotics is pretty much manifesting itself as the driving force in almost all areas of surgery now. So how does your involvement with robotics play out as you look at an investment strategy?
Certainly. So my understanding, and I'm again coming from an analyst's point of view, there are brilliant and very talented surgeons out there, but there are only a few of them. So robotics enable an average surgeon to perform better, safer, faster. So that I think is an adoption trend. But you are the surgeon, so you could attest to that. But I think it's going to be more and more important. There are, of course, external robots. We're also interested in the soft tissue and inner body robots as well, which I think is another dimension of this whole progress.
I think one question I have, because you go from pre-approval to post-approval, you have a significant range. How do you evaluate your companies from pre-approval? Is it more about the jockey? And post-approval, what metrics do you lose for that criteria to invest?
So I want to add on to that question because I think that's really important, and I think that's where you were kind of going with this. As a surgeon, for us, it's all about the outcomes and measuring those outcomes. So I wanted to add that into Rob's question.
Sure. So in terms of investing along the company's own life cycle, we do have an investment goal, and we have investors who expect certain returns from us in given time frames. So if we were to invest all our dollars into only early stage, then we would be very far away from a harvesting period. And likewise, if we were only investing in late stage, then we would essentially miss out on potentially disruptive technologies which are currently globally available, but they lack financing or they're still in the early stages of development. So we have a holistic approach. We are stage agnostic. And this doesn't necessarily jive well in the fund industry because they want to put us in boxes typically. But when you're focused in a deep tech environment like MedTech, then asset allocation is really about, diversifying within the, stages, and thereby essentially, not only satisfying the timelines that are required from investors, but also having the opportunity to steer some of the companies that you are involved in an earlier, stage in their development.
You've had an impressive track record with VB. I think the number, and correct me, is 30-something portfolio companies with 25 plus successful exits. That's incredibly impressive. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about, do you have the time frame that you like to see to an exit? Is it an evergreen fund? And then let's talk a little bit about your current portfolios. What's exciting?
Sure. So the credit goes to Viscogliosi brothers. I cannot take that, but I can relay that message to them. They have been phenomenally successful in this space, of course. Three brothers, 30 years plus dedicated family office into the space. And they are the not only domain experts, but the change agents. They have been successfully importing global technologies to the US market and executing them through the regulatory pathway in the US, and also carving out very successfully a number of opportunities from global, big MedTech, and then, essentially reshaping those, technologies or IPs and remarketing them again successfully. So they have 22 exits, about 3 billion distributed capital, 3.1 multiple, with an average exit of 6 years, under 6 years. Our portfolio, when we looked at the space, my initial introduction to VB was as an LP. We were their investor, and as an analyst, I started, going to, conferences with them. They were I'm very much homeschooled in that way, that I was privileged to given the access to that much exposure to what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And the more I involved, the more interested I got, and now I'm too deep into the rabbit hole to get out, I guess. But it has been a fascinating journey. And our own portfolio, we have an evergreen platform because MedTech, doesn't necessarily fit well with a synthetic deadline. So we have an evergreen portfolio, but with a very disciplined allocation approach. We have made 12 investments since we started in July 22. And we had one very successful exit that allowed us to distribute significant portion of our capital back to our investors. And we're now moving along with the overall consolidation of the spine space.
With that, in the consolidation, what aspects of spine do you currently have in your portfolio companies, from larger to more seasoned to more exciting that have alpha to them?
Sure. So I think they all have, hopefully, alpha. It's just the magnitude and the multiple of alpha and how soon it is, that can come to fruition. So, the largest transaction has been the Stryker's spine division acquisition by the Viscogliosi brothers, which we have participated on that, investment as VBW Holdings. And that essentially gave us not only the mass revenue, about $700 million globally, but also a sales force of 500 plus team that are in various parts of the world. And this has complemented well the brothers' overall long-term goals, because typically they have been transacting on individual companies while investing and ultimately exiting from them, but never on a consolidated basis. So VB Spine obviously is mainly fusion business, but we do have the artificial disc company, which is Sentinel Spine, doing very well. There's Companion Spine, which was very active in Europe, and recently it has acquired the Xstance portfolio, and now again coming into the US market. So all this will be consolidated under ultimately VB Spine.
Well, that's certainly the fastest growing area in orthopedics, and obviously you're ahead of the curve. Go ahead, Robbie. Look, you had a question?
So from the VBW, which is your area of control, how do you tend to look at the investment into companies, and from a deployment from initial up to fully invested at any particular company at any particular point in time?
Certainly. So we start looking at this space from at clinical stage, so nothing blueprint, so to speak, and then move along that development curve, and we are agnostic to where the company is in terms of necessarily in the regulatory pathway, but we have a very strong emphasis on the team itself. So do the founders have previously done this, and not only having one champion, but also did that team essentially work together before, because it's the teams that make success within MedTech. It's not necessarily just led by one highly talented individual. It's a team effort, and we also look at whether the technology being developed is it evolutionary, or is it disruptive, revolutionary, and other things we look at is do they have a clear understanding of the regulatory pathway, as well as do they understand what is the US revenue model, because US accounts for 46% of the healthcare spending globally. So I believe that the technologies can be originated anywhere in the world, but ultimately for them to reach their full commercial potential, they need to find a representation in the US.
When you're making these investments, are there certain investments that are passive that you'll take positions in, or are you intimately involved from investment to success? How engaged are you?
Sure. So there are two ways. If it is a domain area for the brothers, which is neuromusculoskeletal, then we are able to take a larger position and lead that investment. We're almost always have some kind of a board representation, not into the day-to-day activity necessarily, but we are very much involved in how that company is steered strategically. When there is an investment outside of our periphery, then we would like to, and we were lucky to be able to partner up with global strategics, where there is an expert partner on the cap table, and we will be following on their lead.
So in this journey that you've had with the brothers, there's obviously been some really big wins, if you want to flesh those out a little bit, and also what you all have learned from the things that didn't necessarily turn out as a big win. Because as you mentioned earlier, this is a journey that obviously has its ups and downs, but for the most part, I think people would assume that your journey with the brothers has been very positive and a win. But what are some of the bigger wins that you all have accomplished?
Sure. I mean, the brothers have had 22 exits, and I think it's within the neuromusculoskeletal space. So they did have small bone innovations. They had several companies in their portfolio that is either spine or other orthopedic areas that has been successful in terms of exits. But they also did have some investments that didn't necessarily meet investment return targets. But I think the overall learning is to develop the mental faculties to have a grit and stay in the game, and ultimately de-risk yourself with more network and more dedication into the space. That has been pretty much a Stoic's journey into the space.
True. So when you're looking for investment opportunities, do you have, other than the brothers, do you have other surgeons, consultants that you work with, and how do you bring them into the evaluating these investments?
Absolutely mission critical, because when again, coming from an analyst point of view, I do review a deck, everything is great, and then I see that beautiful animation, everything works well, and it's so easy that the implant is actually placed into that very tight space, and then I found myself in a cadaver lab, and the surgeon is doing the things his way. Even starting with the initial incision, doing it, horizontally instead of the vertical, and then the whole real practice starts. So ultimately the client, yes, it is the patient, but it is the surgeon who needs to approve that procedure. So is it safer? Is it better? Is it faster? Is it more practical? And then maybe with the commercial motives, is it reimbursable? Those are all the kind of feedback we constantly need from surgeon KOLs such as yourselves for us to have a better assessment, because otherwise we're just taking everything for granted. But the reality is in many cases very different. The surgeons question everything from the shape to the instrument sets to the whole procedure itself, and that learning is mission critical to any success.
So I think that's critical from the standpoint that that's one of the reasons why you have good surgeon buy-in to what you're doing, is that you're including them in the whole process. Where I can tell you that many times that we're just utilized for one very, very small piece, and then that's it. But it sounds as though you've got the surgeon in from the very beginning to the very end, and you're having them help you evaluate the steps along the way. And I think that's critical to getting surgeon buy-in into what you're producing and what you're investing in. So one of the things that happens to us as surgeons is that we're inundated with potential investment opportunities. How would you recommend that healthcare professionals evaluate new technology and what to invest in?
Certainly. I think the first thing is really to get out of the comfort zone. An orthopedic surgeon probably knows everything about orthopedics already, but what that particular technology to not only reach the market but also become successful requires a lot of peripheral expertise around it, and that's when again who is the leading team becomes a main part of that decision-making process, and in MedTech. It's easier to steer a type of an IP in the right direction if there is the right team. So it doesn't necessarily have to start with a great, technology that's going to change everything in life. But it's more about the team who's going to evolve that technology in the right direction, so it can actually help the patients and the whole stakeholders in that journey. So that's I think one of the main points. And then from a surgical perspective, I guess again you would have much more insights than I do. But is it safe? Is it simple? Is it practical? Is it cost saving for the patient or for the hospital or for ultimately for the payer? Is it available in quantities? Do you have the technical support from the company who is putting that unique technology? How are the services around it? Do you have the technician in the OR? All those aspects. Is it reimbursable? All these things become apparent. KPIs for the success.
With the success of looking at these investments, it's always good to join somebody that has been successful as you have. I know that you do partner and have opportunities, and people have an ability to invest alongside of you. How does one do that? Should they be interested in partnering with VBW?
Sure. So we do have we have a platform. VBW Holding is an investment platform. Most of our own capital is, of course, tied in, so we have an interest aligned with our investors, but they can invest in our Evergreen program, which is the holding itself. We do have an accelerator program with global blue chips that is concentrating on early stage disruptive technologies. We are following the trend of converging technologies. So it's not only about MedTech anymore, it's about converging the resources available from pharma, from device, as well as from energy solutions. So that is an area of interest to us as a second sub-strategy. And thirdly, for most investors, they do seek, cash yielding, instruments. So, a real estate investor would seek rent. Similarly, we wanted to create a coupon-paying, investment vehicle as well. So we created VBW Financing Company, and through that we actually provide non-dilutive loans to our portfolio companies. And because they are cash flow driven, it's able to make quarterly distributions. So it gives us essentially a platform for long-term growth of capital, while we also give a chance to create current income.
So, Rob, did you have any other questions with regard on the investment side?
Listen, I've been fortunate to have experience with Kerem and his team and their diligence process. I value them as a trusted partner, and if they're going to invest in an opportunity that makes me feel comfortable, granted, historical results do not guarantee future success, just as a caveat for those listening, but you want to go with those stellar track records. So it's my pleasure to bring opportunities. I think any company that has the ability to partner with Kerem, the VB brothers, is fortunate and has a significant edge in the future success of the company. Is my opinion.
I'm humbled by that, and that obliges us to do better. But yes, I think there is a certain advantage. I felt predominantly as an LP investing with the co-investing along with the brothers in the past, before VBW even was formed, and that gravitas is there, and it does attract and enable them to select from a more expansive pool of pipeline, and also ultimately negotiate better terms than a passive investor coming with a simple interest in just becoming a member, because they are going to influence and de-risk that company's future with the expertise and the network that they bring onto the table. So John often says that not all dollars are green, and I think it's a good way to put it.
I like that. A question from both a personal and a professional side. With all the products and technologies that you all bring, I assume that you have to go through the patent process with a lot of these. I have found that personally to be very cumbersome. I can't imagine what it's like to do it on an international level, but I assume that is a significant part of what you bring to the table with the brothers.
That's correct, but we do have a great patent attorney as well, which is always available. She's great and has been with us, accompanying. It's a part of the investment process, to understand the gaps in the patents, and I think it's a strategy that needs to be actively run, as you mentioned. So it's not just a single point at an entry where you check whether it's okay or not, but rather, how defensive you are and how offensive do you want to get, and how would that ultimately steer you in your decisive actions going commercial. So yes, patents are an absolutely critical part of the whole equation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I found this conversation to be fascinating. I've learned a lot, and I think that the surgeons that will view this podcast will learn a lot from this as well. Again, this is just an area that we don't get to peel the layers back very often, and so I appreciate both of you all helping us with this. Rob, is there anything else, or Kerem, that you want to bring to the table here?
I've enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to working with the both of you in the future and revisiting this opportunity with future opportunities that you've invested in and exited in. We'll keep track.
Thank you so much.
I think that's fascinating, and I appreciate both of your all's expertise, and also, helping to explain to us what it is that you do and how you do it. Kerem, I'll give you the last word. If there's anything else that comes to mind that you wanted to flesh out, more than happy to do that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and having your audience is an absolute honor. I have been following your for other podcasts as well. It was quite fascinating. And again, thank you for the opportunity, Rob, also for enabling me to be a part of this.
Well, I appreciate that, Kerem, and thank you for being here and taking the time today and sharing your expertise with us. I want to thank both Rob and Kerem. Really enjoyed this, and again, you all have the best of days and weekend, and we will talk again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.